Welcome to your Daily 5 for Thursday, April 27th, 2023. There were two news items that I read about, one yesterday and one today, that had to do with the wearable health space, or health wearable devices and data. One was that yesterday, I think the announcement came out that Amazon was canceling its Halo line of wearables, which were, I think, almost everything Amazon does has a component which is meant to sell you something, but I believe that the main drive of the Halo line was as health wearables that were doing something, they were aiming to do something similar to what the Apple Watch does. And then there was an opinion piece I read this morning over on The Verge, I believe, that was about the fact that Apple is looking at expanding its health initiatives into the space of mental health. And the person writing it was dubious on whether that was really a good idea, because she found that many of the alerts and notifications on the Apple Watch are actually detrimental towards the stated goal of making you feel like you're more empowered to be healthy and exercise and move around and everything else. And like I said, that's very much an opinion piece, so you can disagree with it as much as you want, because I know many people find that the Apple Watch is actually a fantastic health device. Now, I don't have one. My wife does. She likes it quite a bit. She does not have all the alerts turned on, so maybe there is some kind of overlap there with what this author was talking about in terms of how the Apple Watch can be a bit unrelenting and, frankly, non-helpful in how much it wants you to do things if you don't specifically tune it to do that. But it got me thinking about health wearables in general, because one of the promises of health wearables, which is an ongoing thing, is that because there will now be so many of these devices around, and because they measure so much of your personal health data all the time and feed into what are hopefully properly anonymized data sets, sorry, I got lost in the word jumble there, that eventually this will lead to health breakthroughs. And of course, we've seen all the stories when Apple launches a new version of the watch. They have all these things where somebody says, I got in a car crash and Apple Watch saved me. Oh, I was having a heart attack, Apple Watch saved me. And those are all, I'm sure, true. Some people think those are all made up. I don't think so. But I also don't think that's really what the promise of the tech is. It's not for the individual to benefit. It's for everyone to benefit. That if things can be identified, that we start to see markers where somebody, even very young, can be made to never have a disease because they know what causes it. And I don't doubt that there is going to be some follow through on that potential. We will find some of these things out. We're already finding them out. But I do wonder if one thing that we're going to eventually get out of all this data and on a long enough timeline with analysis, and I may never live to see it, but is if there is going to be a ceiling on how much we can learn. If there is going to be just some set of things that affect us as biological beings that will not be able to be predicted and prevented and analyzed in the way that we hope it would be. I'm sure there certainly will be. You will find genetic markers for X, that if you do certain things in your lifestyle, that 97% of the time it leads to X disease showing up. There will be those things. But I think I will be curious on how much is simply never going to be knowable, because the mechanics of biology don't conform to the ones that govern things like computing. There are not binary switches in every way that we think there are. I mean, there are, but they're all interrelated. And can we ever really be able to comprehend the complexity of the interlocking systems that create our biology? Now, probably at some point, maybe we will, but I think it's a way, way further off target than we imagine. Probably about the same time that we figure out how to truly, quote unquote, map the human brain, which, Lando still insists won't ever be able to be done. I think it will, but I think it's going to be so far off that by the time we get there, will we as human beings even care anymore? That's another thing we never really think about, that, things in the far future, we'll get there eventually. But will we have evolved past the need? I don't know. It's a weird thing to think about, that on such a long timeline, human beings and what they actually care about, assuming the planet still is habitable and we're still on it, move to a different planet, and some of the things that you have to prioritize get radically different. So, health wearables, again, this is just a general kind of thought thing. I don't have any specific point necessarily that I'm making, but it's an interesting thing to consider about whether this promise that we see in health wearables will end up being similar to the promise of many other kind of long-reach research and study and analysis type of things, where, yes, someday somebody might get there, but by the time we've gotten to a point where we can do it, will we really care anymore? Will we have found a solution through other means, or will we suddenly be all living in a digital brain somewhere in space? I don't know. Like I said, this 5 has really no point, just things that were noodling on my brain and I felt like talking about. Later.